Well, it's great to be presenting and great to be in our virtual world. I wanted to share with you Claris Connect. It's the latest product to come from Claris, formerly known as FileMaker, and then formerly known again as Claris. So, really exciting what they've rolled out here. And I'm going to do a quick run through of the features and how I am using it in my business. And then I'm going to actually get in the software and we're going to play in the sandbox and have some fun. So let's get through the technical, less fun stuff first, and then we'll go play. So first, a little about myself. I started with the Commodore 64 computer, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. You all look way too young to have known what this device was, but I got hooked on it and enjoyed learning Basic 2.0 in Little Machine language and all kinds of stuff you could do. You could type in games and modify them. And I started with databases with Omnis 3 back in the 80s on my Macintosh SE30 and created a distribution database for our company. Just did it on the side for fun. So this has always been kind of a hobby or side thing that I do when I work or at home. When I got my job after that, I worked for another publishing company and played with Alpha 4. And then one day, the boss said all of us were switching to Office and doing Microsoft Access. I said, I don't want to, but I did it. And so I was in the Microsoft Access ecosystem for a few years and I got through it. And I'm a member of the Atlanta Macintosh User Group and was president 2012, 2013. And before that, a long time ago, there was the Metro Atlanta Computer Club, and I was president of that, and we had lots of fun there. So today, I'm going to talk about Claris Connect, and you're probably wondering what it is, and I want to start off immediately by saying a couple things about it, because there's some misconceptions, and that is, one, you don't have to have FileMaker at all to use this product, which is interesting. Two, you do need FileMaker online version, something on the internet in the cloud to really benefit from it. You would need iCloud, excuse me, not iCloud, but FileMaker Cloud, or you would need to run it on a server to get the full benefits. But there is a way you can run it locally, so we'll talk about that later. iPaaS, what does iPaaS stand for? It stands for Integration Platform as a Service. So that's the big thing these days in the world of computing is there's so many wonderful products out there and they're all becoming more interconnectable, if that's a word. And some of these products even have support areas, and usually you can log into their developer section and get the APIs. And you can start connecting things and letting all your applications that you use every day play with one another. And that's what Claris Connect is all about, to make that process a lot easier and faster. So, woo, it's like magic. All of a sudden you see all these little icons of popular applications that are already in the cloud and already used by a lot of people. And we're going to do a deeper dive into a few of them later in my presentation. So the idea is everything is just hooked up and you have a series of actions, and it's a lot easier than doing lots of APIs and programming, and we will get more into that in a second. So the benefit of these iPaaS connections is you get to the market faster. You get updates over upgrades, just more productivity. It's faster, but you do have to pay a monthly fee, which we'll get into later. So at the same time, some people were already using these programs with plugins, so you don't have to pay separate third-party companies plugin fees anymore, which is a good thing. So let's talk about some of the features of Claris Connect. We have good, solid security, and we have stability, and we have reliability. The three things that you would want in any marriage. And it does come with a couple connectors already. As I mentioned earlier, FileMaker Server, which most people are running on Amazon these days, or FileMaker Cloud. So they do come with some triggers, and trigger is pretty much the whole engine behind everything with Claris Connect, because there has to be an action, and that will create a domino effect or trickle down effect, or a series of actions, however you want to call it, and that will get your work done. So it has built-in triggers already and actions for simple things like creating a record, doing a search, executing a script. So most of what you need can be done in these 6 actions if you look. So it's pretty cool. Connectors are what Claris calls software applications on the internet, and you'll see many popular ones. As I had said when I gave my presentation back in September, I'm a big believer of not reinventing the wheel, and it's better sometimes just to connect components to have a solution, because some of these products have excellent brands and they're well known and people already know how to use them. So there's big advantages to just connecting existing programs and then making FileMaker the brain or the coordinator of your solution, or making FileMaker the depository. Or FileMaker is great for filling in for oddball parts of your business that you're working for, developing for, where there's no software readily available, where you need to custom make something to fill a gap. So we'll get into that more later. A webhook. A webhook is where you send a command, and there is a place for that. I'll show you in a minute when you're setting up your Claris Connect. So you would send your webhook using the post command, just standard good old-fashioned HTTP protocol. So versioning, which is nice, because if your new version doesn't work, of course you can go back to your old version while you're figuring out what went wrong. And a history log, if you so desire to turn it on, which is helpful too. In approval, there is a feature there where supervisors or team members can approve a flow that you created to make it active, which we'll get into in a second. And branching, which is nice. Typical example of the if-then branching would be something that needs to be approved by a supervisor before it can go to the next step. And error logging, which is nice because that helps us solve and figure out problems. So what we have here is anywhere, real-time, all features, any plan, if that made sense. So let me talk about the nomenclature of using Claris Connect and some of the key concepts and words and principles. First thing you do is you start a project, which we're going to do in a second. And that's kind of like a container, and that would include all your flows in your container. Then the next level would be the flow. The flow is the series of steps that your event would be triggered by. So again, I'll show an example of this and we'll get to see it in action. But here's a situation where you're using Mailchimp which we use for marketing purposes. It's a email blast software. It's one of those things that drive people crazy and makes people have lots of spam in their email boxes, but we use it sparingly, only once a month, because we don't like getting a lot of email ourselves where I work currently. And it is effective, but it takes a lot of work keeping that list up to date. But with Claris Connect, I'll be able to keep it all updated automatically, which is a miracle. So the next step is the trigger. Some applications don't have any triggers. Other applications have a lot of built-in triggers. Eventbrite is what you're seeing on the screen now, and Eventbrite is a super popular event manager, and it's great for small nonprofits or neighborhood groups or just any community or civic organization that doesn't want to spend millions of dollars on a fancy event module or software. It's real low end and simple and easy to use. So if you want to organize a wedding or a reunion or anything, Eventbrite's real popular for things like that. Mailchimp, I already talked about it a little bit. It's for email marketing. They're real user friendly as far as playing with other online programs, and it's become super popular. A lot of people also use a program called Constant Contact, but I like Mailchimp more because I like monkeys. So what you would do is go to the next step, which is step data. And you create it. And sometimes you have to understand that every online application has their own nomenclatures, and you have to set it up in a way that they're going to be able to read it and understand it. So here's an example of where you could just pull out the fields from an action to create an action step or a trigger. Hello, whoever joined us. I can't hear anybody or see anybody, but I'm glad you're here. Connectors. Claris Connect comes with quite a few connectors, and I'm hoping that they will continue to expand, and some are real popular and used regularly by businesses. For instance, you have QuickBooks Online, which is one that I use at the company I'm at now. Box is real popular. It's similar to Dropbox, great for keeping your documents. In Pipedrive, that is used for sales forces, and Stripe is used for collecting money from your smartphone. So again, we'll get into more detail in a minute. So here's how I plan to use it. I work for a company that does doors and handyman services. And by doors, we do reinforcing of the doors to prevent burglars from breaking into people's houses. It's probably the number one thing we do. And in the picture is a security door. Every week we're putting up several of those, and they are not just an ordinary storm door. They have reinforced laminated glass, and they have a 3-point locking system, and they're connected onto the entryway with security screws. So they're actually designed for security, even though they look pretty. So we put a lot of those on. So my company uses a lot of these popular programs like Trello. I don't know what your familiarity is with Trello, but I think of it as a big whiteboard where people mark it with markers and then put up yellow stickies. So you have list and then you have cards. So I'm going to give you a brief tour of Trello in a second. Google Calendar, I could get plugins, but I really like Google Calendar, and people are already used to it, and it is very powerful and it's free. So my gosh, why not just use it? There are plugins available to connect Calendar with FileMaker, but once you get Claris Connect, you no longer have to pay that fee. QuickBooks Online, I love, and I think it's a great product. So again, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel with my FileMaker solutions, but I do need to find a way to get the two to talk to each other. QuickBooks has a developer support area, and you can get the APIs, and you can do a little programming wizardry, and you can set it up yourself, but it's so much easier just to use a Claris Connect connection. And then Mailchimp, I've already mentioned a couple times. So I think I'm just going to wait to the end to show you Trello, because otherwise I'd have to take down this pretty screen, and I'm in presentation mode. But I use Trello to keep up with all our jobs that move through the shop, and I couldn't live without it. But it's time consuming to do duplicate entering of QuickBooks and Google Calendar and Trello and FileMaker for every little job. So it needs to be connected. Claris provided some examples of ways that you can easily get programs to talk to one another. This is a very simple one where you get Stripe, which is like a merchant services app. You run somebody's card if you're at an event or selling something, and it automatically updates into QuickBooks. Here's a little series that's a little more complex. Someone downloads a file, and through Office, it sends out an email alerting that that has happened. So that's just kind of like email notifications. Here's a service ticket. Zendesk is super popular for companies for helplines and customer support, and that would go to Slack, which is another popular messaging program, and from Slack it would send out an alert to everyone that somebody has submitted a support ticket. Salesforce, I was briefly not at FileMaker for, I guess, about a year, because my organization that I was working for had been using Salesforce. Blasphemy, evil. Did not like it, and was very happy to get back to FileMaker. Salesforce is just a little too much for any small organization. It seems to be more suited for large enterprise solutions, and I mean real large. But it's very popular and a very foundational program out there in the internet world, so you have to learn to play ball with it. So here's an example of creating a new deal, and then you can set it up to get an alert by email. Conditional features, that's really cool. So Shopify is an online store solution that's already set up in the cloud. So you get a new customer, and if they decide to get marketing emails, they opt in. So that's the branch, and then you would add them automatically into Mailchimp. You're holding an event, typically an event that sells tickets, like you're doing organizing for your daughter's ballet performance. So you would sell tickets online, and as the tickets are sold, it would go into Clearbit, and then it could go into your database. So it's pretty cool. I don't know if it's possible to ask questions as I go, but they are certainly welcome. Eventbrite, this is going into Salesforce. So let's say someone attends your event, and that makes them a prospect. So it would go straight to being a lead, and then you could get an email alert, or it could go straight into your database. This is a cool little feature, and you can go to DB Services website, and there's a video on how to set this example up. But Typeform is a popular online form feature where you can set it up. I think there might even be a free version, so you can create it for your employees to request personal time off. So they send in their PTO request, and if it is approved by a supervisor, it can go to a branch again, and it'll show up on Google Calendar as an event. So that's a more lengthy flow. This is a flow where someone signs a contract, it goes to Pipedrive, which is a sales management tool, and then it goes to QuickBooks, and the invoice goes out to whoever signed the contract. And meanwhile, that invoice number can go back to Pipedrive or into your FileMaker database. Let's talk about pricing. There are two plans for Claris Connect. There is the Essentials, and that's $99 a month for 3 active workflows and 10,000 API calls. So this is definitely the one I'll be using because our company is pretty small. We only have like 5 employees. So I don't need a big enterprise level solution or plan. So it will allow me to use 3 unique apps. And what that means is those apps can be used all at different flows, or it can be used multiple times. And if it's a FileMaker app, you can have as many as you want. If you want more API requests, then you have to get a expansion pack for $50 for every 5,000 that you want to add on. So I don't think I will ever reach that. If you're a big organization, or if you're a developer working for a big organization, you may consider Connect Standard, which is $249 a month and has 6 active flows and up to 50,000 API calls. So you get a lot more bandwidth, so to speak. You can use all the unique apps that you want and all the FileMaker apps that you want. So you can really get to building your solutions. And if you want to get an expansion on the standard package, it's $100 for every 15,000 additional API request and 1 additional flow. So here's a little breakdown. And I know you guys are getting excited and getting your credit cards out now, but put that credit card back because we're not done yet. You can get users. They are different than people that may be given permission on your FileMaker server. These are users in the Connect ecosystem, and you add them, and they're allowed to collaborate. So they can take advantage of the flows. And as I said just a second ago, they're not considered a licensed user or part of the FileMaker cloud. That's different. If you want to play with this, take it for a little test run. You can get a 15-day trial, and it's same specs as Essentials, and it's a public trial, and they will not charge your credit card, but they want your credit card info. So make a note on the 14th day, if you don't want it, to cancel, because who knows what will happen after that. You'll go into the netherworld. So there is a nice support area on the Claris community website where you can ask questions, and a whole new look, whole new bulletin board type system. So feel free to go there and start reading and looking around and educating yourself. I went ahead and made my own resource list. DB Services and Soylent Consulting, both big developer houses that we all have heard of. They have created some tutorials and overviews of the new Claris Connect, so I encourage you to use them. The third, Long-Term Solutions, I just wanted to put in a plug for Bob Patton. He is a cool dude. He does my PHP programming, and for years he hosted a lot of my FileMaker databases. So if you're looking for a FileMaker hosting solution, I guess as you guys know, because of licensing, I believe, they can only go up to FileMaker Server 14. So that's fine because that's still a good version of FileMaker Server. In fact, I ran FileMaker Server 12 for years, both on his site. I had a server running out of my house. It crashed while I was at a conference when I needed it most, and I got mad and jumped up and down and threw a pencil and cried. But when I got back after my conference, I just moved all my databases to long-term solutions so I wouldn't have to worry anymore. So just giving them a free, unabashed plug because they have been great to me. So I would say Q&A, but I think everyone's muted. So we'll just go on.
Nothing to
Okay,
mind yet. I probably will once I see once we're actually messing with the workflows. I'm interested in seeing more of those.
okay. Let's jump in and play. It's time for playtime. So I'm guessing that you can still see my screen. So go into my FileMaker. It's going to be a little slower because of the online virtual conference, but hopefully it'll still work. I'm glad I got my fiber optic because before, when I just had DSL, it wouldn't have been possible. So I've created a flow last night. It was fun. It took me a couple hours because I had to figure it all out, but I'll give you a little ride. So this is my example flow. And what I've done is I created Mailchimp with Slack. And the idea being is whenever someone is added into Mailchimp, they get notified by Slack. And I would have done something with FileMaker, but I don't have my server up yet. I had a server at my old job that I don't have my old job, so about to get one and run it on Amazon in the near future. But we'll just do this simple example for now. So the idea is every time a subscriber is added, Slack will let everyone know. So you can go here, you got your branch, and you have your actions. So I'm going to leave it the way it is, but we'll get into this in a minute because there's a few things I wanted to show you and go over with you guys. Quite a few programs, apps, solutions to choose from. And then they give you these basic utilities. Now, if you see something that's dimmed out, that just means that there is no trigger event for it, but you can still use it in other ways. So I'm going to see if I can get back into my Mailchimp account because I had to get out when we were started. So let's see if I can get back in. So I have a list that's also the same name as my company. And I'm going to go to add a contact. We're going to see if this thing actually works. Add a subscriber. And I'm going to add my brother because he's a nice guy. Yeah, he's getting old. All right. This person gave me permission to email them. Well, I lied, but don't tell anyone. So in theory, what will happen is I'll hit subscribe and I'll get a notification on my phone. So Jesse, please do a drum roll. Here we go. Oh, that didn't get far. Ah, it only wants the date, not the year. Let's try it again. Mission accomplished. So I felt a little message come in on my watch, and it said Ryan Daniel has been added. So I have notifications temporarily turned off, but I got it here. And it looks like it worked. Ta-da, ta-da. So let's get back to the steps. Um, you do have to log in on each end to your apps that you already are part of. And like I said earlier, a lot of these are free, which is nice. So you would do a selection of your app. You would choose a trigger event and then an action. Um, you have to log into each account and you have to configure it as needed. So we'll go through that real quick. Seems to have locked up. I was doing that some last night. I don't know why. I guess it's just new. Go to edit. There we go. So I just chose the apps as the first step. I'm not going to do any new actions. I'm not going to do any new flows. History is nice. It showed that the one that I did last night for some reason didn't work. A couple of them, and I finally got it to go through. Connected apps shows what's logged in, and you can run a test to make sure that you are talking to each other. Approvals is if you create a flow and you want your boss or your mother or somebody to approve what you've done. So that's not something that I need because I am the king. A webhook. Webhooks are just like I said, commands that just go through simple HTTP and are sent using the post command. So I don't need to create any of those now. Your project API key for security. And that's pretty important because we like to be secure. And I have two versions of myself because it needed at least two to make this part work, be a collaborator. So I want to go into well, let me show you the Slack end of it. So basically, We've chosen this app already. I might have to start it from new. I'm not able to get into everything. And then on the other end, I think that's a browser problem. There we go. And then you hook it up on the other end. Action account configure. So let's go back to my projects and let's go to this one where we can play around some. So the first thing you would do is create a new flow and give it a name. You need to choose what online app, or you can choose one of the utilities that Claris Connect provides you with. I'm going to be interested in using this dates utility so that I can hook into Google Calendar soon, but for now we'll just look at some of these others. QuickBooks is good, and you just can click on the little I information and you can see that it's dimmed out because it has no particular triggers, but these are all the actions that are available. Main one I'll be using is creating the customer and then creating the invoice or creating the estimate. So the solution I'm working on, basically, our sales people will be out in the field with their iPad or their laptop, and they will enter field notes from measuring a owner's homeowner, and that data will be fed straight to our server, where it will be created into a card for Trello, which I'll show you in a second, and it can go into QuickBooks as an estimate. And once you get it scheduled, it will be sent to Google Calendar. So looking forward to having this thing working. So I think that just sends, that just sends you to the QuickBooks site. There are limited things that you can do with FileMaker Cloud and FileMaker Server, but if you're creative, you can pretty much do whatever you need. You can do a script trigger, and these are the built-in actions. So the one, of course, I would be using most is creating a record. Once a salesperson submits their field notes from their assessment and consultation, that would be sent into the mothership, so to speak, and a record would be created. And from there, I would create flows to go into Mailchimp. So we would already have their information for our next email blast, and it would go into Google Calendar, it would go into QuickBooks and Trello. So that was the main things I wanted to show you, is that there are just limitations as to what the actions are. They're built in, and hopefully they have what you need. Let me see if I can get into my Trello account. Oh, good. Some good luck. Yeah, at our company, we have clients. We do leads. Once a lead comes in, either by phone or web form or by email or whatever, they start out as a lead, and the idea is to move them to the end of completed client. So we schedule their appointments so we can do assessments, and then when it's complete and we can't sell them on the spot, I put them here for follow-up. Sometimes they require us to go back to talk to vendors and put a proposal together. We can't always provide prices on the spot if it's something that involves a vendor. So I'll create proposals and send them out, and I create reminders to track all that. Unfortunately, due to the virus situation, a bunch of jobs have moved into this category, delayed projects. So I'm hoping that when things get better out there, that we'll have a real surge. But right now, it's getting a little low with work. Here's waiting for deposit, and then we have people waiting scheduling for their jobs. Sometimes I have to order things, so they just stay here while I'm waiting for their parts or their components to come in. And then we have active. Everything is set, ready to go. They're scheduled. When they're done with a job, when our project managers and installers go do a job, and more often than not, there's a loose end where we have to go back or take care of something. Typical problem is we can't paint because it's a rainy day. Warranty, this is where people have complained about a problem where we need to go back and take care of it. And when it gets through all those steps, it goes to ready to invoice. Sometimes when we're doing a job, they'll say, oh, can you also do this or whatever? So I have to keep up a record to follow up with them because they want more work done. So finally it gets to the invoicing, and then hooray, it gets to paid complete. So the idea is to create flows from FileMaker that will keep these cards current and up to date. So you can go into one of these cards and you can go to actions and move. So I'm trying to work on a way to send a trigger event to change this as they proceed down the pipeline. So this one would need to go from invoice to complete once they pay. So I'm looking forward to using Claris Connect as a tool to help me get from point A to point B. No, I don't want to do that. I'll just start there. There we go. There are a few templates to help you get going. And if anything, they just educate you. Eventbrite to Mailchimp. The idea being is someone attends a conference and you add them to your marketing list. So we can look at it. So I would need to connect to the accounts I own, so I'm kind of stuck here. Once you do that, you configure it. And then the last thing I was going to do is attempt to create a connection. So I'm going to go back to Claris Connect. I'm going to get rid of this one. I'm going to start a new project. This has to be the FM Claris demo. Ooh, that's something to get used to. So I'm going to go here and name the flow. And I'm going to start with my Mailchimp. So I have a few choices of things I can do. I can create a new subscriber, which is what I will do because it's simple. So I have to connect to my account. I have to give it permission. And I love seeing success in green letters. That makes life worth living. So far, so good. So I'm in Mailchimp and I need to pick one of my mail list. So that's the one I showed you earlier. So what it's saying here is it wants to see a subscriber added because that's going to fire the trigger. And without it, nothing much is going to happen. So I had a hard time with this last night because it was real slow, but eventually when I was about to give up, it came to life and I got so excited and I squealed like a little child. So I'm going to go back into my Mailchimp and add another subscriber. Well, screen's still up. So it needs to be somebody new, and I've already used up every email that I can think of. So I'll just have to make up one. So I'm going to hit subscribe. I successfully added a record and I got my notification on my watch, which is cool. It's really Dick Tracy-like. So I'm going to see if that was enough to make this happy. Yay! Connection complete. So now I can save it. It wanted me to actually put my money where my mouth is, or show my metal, so to speak. All right.
Hey,
So
Todd,
next, yes,
since we're right here, I'm just curious, what happens if you click on the if and then little conditional option?
sure.
And maybe I'm cutting you and you were about to just show us, but
No, that's cool. Um, then you would branch off, and you could set up some nested steps. The typical one would be sending it to, like I said earlier, a supervisor to approve something. If the supervisor says yes, then you would send out the notification on Slack. If the supervisor says no, it dies right there. So it's just an if then statement. Or if you prefer, you can do an or statement or an and statement. So you have some basic Boolean options here. Um, and you can get pretty elaborate if you want to, or you can get simple. So right now I'm just going to do an action, and I'm going to get Slack. Where are you, Slack? There you are. And again, it has some built-in actions, and I'm just going to say post a message. So again, I need to connect. I'm going to allow permission. Ah, success. Yay! So I'm going to go to continue. Channel. That's their nomenclature for different groups, so to speak, in the Slack world. So this is one of the problems I had last night. I wanted to do FM. There is a channel I created, and the little arrow is even upside down. I don't get it. So I just had to try it over and over, and eventually it let me choose the channel. So if I can go into Slack, it's It's like anything else in the database world. You just have to be patient and never take your eye off the light lest you crash and burn. I'm supposed to be hearing the laugh track. So I did create some channels here. I created this channel called FM Demo. So maybe if I just manually enter it, it'll take it because it's not doing the pull down. Wow, it's being stubborn. It's just like all of a sudden it would take it. So I'm going to go to Slack again. Try to post a message. Going to continue. There, now the arrow is pointing down. Isn't that weird? I have no idea why you have to do it twice. It's like watching I Dream of Jeannie. So here you can just type in your text fields. You click on them, like right now, just do a last name. Username, that's your bot, Claris Connect, and your artwork, all that's fine. So the last thing you do is you throw someone in a volcano and you shed your clothes and roll yourself in ashes, and then you go here and you enable it. So you have created a simple flow. And if you want me to test it, go back to your app. These people are going to get emails and be mad at me, but I'll delete them all. No animal is being harmed in the production of this webinar. All right, here we go. Let's see if I get a notification. Da-da. Ah, they're not buying that John. I don't know how to emails to use. Really? Oops, already used them up. Let me try this. There we go. Really? That's cool. I did not know about that. Well, it's going to Andorra, which is an island, I think. Okay. I did not get my usual notification, maybe because I have two duplicate flows and I'm confused. Ah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I got two notifications, ladies and gentlemen. So it's magic. Who needs JSON when you can have magic?
Way to go.
Um, that concludes my presentation. I'm sorry that it only lasted an hour instead of an hour and a half. Any questions from my fanatical fans out there?
That was great, Todd.
Thank you.
I think this is an excellent presentation, and I am very impressed. And I think you get 10 plus. This is one of the most beneficial hours I've spent in self-isolation during the crisis.
Thank you, Earl.
This is wonderful. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it was a pleasure getting to do this. I miss the camaraderie of us talking before and after and just hanging out together because you guys are awesome. But we will do what we have to do to stop this virus from spreading so we can get our economy back and get back to work. Because my schedule went down by half this week at our work, and next week is scary. So I will be probably cleaning my inbox next week. I'll probably be sweeping floors and polishing doorknobs. Thank you, everyone.
David, thank you very much for putting these on and conducting these. This is seeing you two guys in the you look like Captain Kirk sitting
Yes.
there.
Yeah, you're appreciated, David. And he's got a cool car and a cool kid. Yeah, if I when I get my server up, I'll do an encore presentation and I'll show you guys everything working because that's going to be fun.
Well, hey, you know, the thing is that I took about 6 pages of notes while you were talking. So I've been waiting for all of this for 2, 3 years, and seeing you put it all together so elegantly is wonderful, and I appreciate it, and I thank you. And you have moved us into the future. Good job.